I'm Gene Merritt if you don't know me, and if you do know me, I'm still Gene Merritt.
Yeah. Dave, yeah.
Great honor to work with Dave. We're going to take and cover a little bit of the history of Dave, so you get a chance to know him a little bit more. I've had a great opportunity to know him. That wasn't me.
Yeah.
One more. Okay.
Tells you it wasn't working very good.
Hopefully
Skip
it won't
some.
take a jump. This shows Dave in the center, his brother up, Alvin, top right. Son Brian, two right-hand pictures. Dave again. His other son Ron. His father Frank. And of course in the top center is Dave when he started out his business career, age 9, helping out at the trading post. You
Yeah.
get to do all the
I was given donkey rides for a quarter when I was 9 years old. Made some pretty good money in the summertime. Go into town and buy me a new hat, some spurs or chaps or rope or whatever. That was a pretty good time back then. That was when Route 66 was through. Just a 2-lane highway. People would get off at a trading post, get back on. Yeah, real good times. Yeah.
Just a little history on Dave. He was born in 1956, California, to Frank and Rita K. Boyles. Became a part of the,
Yeah.
what's the clan? This is where you got to kick in.
Oh, the Keone clan. Yeah.
My tongue's not quite that talented.
I was born in Sacramento. I don't remember. I think I was there for 3 months. My dad was there on an apprenticeship. Someone he met in the Navy was going to teach him carpentry. So I was born there, but I raised in Lupton, Arizona. That's where all my life been, Lupton.
You might as well do about your great-grandfather, because I can't say that one either.
Oh yeah, his name was Cudahy, his first name. The traders called him. Well, he told his traders his name was Belitnotso. Austin Belitnotso means horse that's yellow. And that's where we got our last name from.
Yellowhorse.
From my great grandfather. Yeah, from my yeah.
His other great-grandfather was William Frank Beasley, an Irish whiskey maker. Who immigrated to Tennessee during the Prohibition. Set up a bunch of stills, and then had trouble in Tennessee.
We heard a lot about him only because he made good whiskey. He was Irish and Ponca. He was a Ponca Indian from Oklahoma. Yeah.
We had Al Capone.
Al Capone come through the reservation. He drank a little of his stuff, and he said he really liked it. Said he makes some good whiskey. Yeah. It was known in our area. Grandpa, he loved the petrified wood. He would go into the petrified forest before it was protected, and he would bring back these big logs. He would polish the faces of these things on an old model. He would take a Model T rear end. He'd bury half of it into the ground. He'd tie a mortar, hook a mortar up to the pinion area. He welded a big plate on the top with something to keep everything in there, and a little piece of steel that would turn the material, would hold the stones while it turned, and he would put a grit in there. And he would do this till he would sleep at night, because it'd take forever to polish these things out. He'd put them in his saddlebags. They would take them to a place called Alamanda, Arizona, which was between Holbrook, or just before, Alamanda was just before Holbrook, Arizona. There was a big train station over there, and he would ride his horse over there, and he would sell the petrified wood pieces to the tourists that were on that train. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of neat. Yeah, kind of neat area. Yeah, very good.
Just to give you an idea, Dave's father Frank estimated that he had approximately 100 tons of petrified wood go through his shop by the time he got finished. So
Yeah,
he was active.
yeah. Back in the 50s, there people traveling, they loved the petrified wood. Yeah. Nowadays when they go to the petrified forest, they're not allowed to take any of it and pick it up or anything. But there's a lot of lands on the outskirts of it that are privately owned, and they still harvest it, dig for it, and the tourists are still able to obtain these things.
Beautiful too. Colors on it.
There was a lady and a man who, back in the 60s, had gone through our store, and they went to the petrified forest, and they took a piece of petrified wood, and she put it in a purse, and they took it home with them. It was about 98 or 99 when they came back through, and they were talking to us. Yeah, I remember your old trading post where it was through, and they said they're heading back to California, but first they're dropping off a piece of rock. I said, really? What kind? They said, well, this piece of petrified wood. We feel kind of really bad today as we grew up about taking it, so we're returning it. Yeah, it's a true story. It's really strange. Yeah. I guess their conscience got the best of them later on in life. Or they grew up and thought, maybe we shouldn't have took that.
Just took a couple years.
Yeah. It's pretty neat.
Original family trading post was on Route 66, the original one before I-40 came through.
Yeah. This is the original family there in front of a wood, in front of the first wood stand or trading post. I didn't hear. It's my father. Let's see, right here is my father, and he had 4 brothers and 4 sisters. 5 sisters. Mary Ann was about my age, a little older than I, and that they sold big pieces of petrified wood as well. That's what stopped them. Stopped the tourists was the colorful stand that they have. My dad and my uncle Shush. This is Juan, Chief Yellowhorse, later known. This one's Shush, which in Navajo means bear, because he's just kind of a brawly kind of guy. Always wanted to fight everybody. Yeah, his name was Shush. Frank, my dad, named Johnny, later became a judge in our area. JP, and let's see, Grandpa, Grandma. This one's Aunt Artie, Jane, and Mary Ann, and Gloria. And anyway, this little scrappy woman here, Anna, I call her Grandma. She would get these 2 boys up early in the morning, because them boys would have to put out string rugs up along the stand. And Navajo rugs are really colorful back then. They'd string them up, they would lay them, put the rug line out. And the tourists, of course, would see them, they'd stop. Officially they were open with all the rugs down. There'd be 50 feet that way and 50 foot that way. In the morning, Grandma would wake up and say, hey, you boys get out of bed. Hurry up, get out of bed. Get them rugs up. She broke in English. Before all the tourists dries up. So the boys, they speak fairly decent English. They were going to school, but they would say, okay, Mom, we'll get out there before all them tourists dry up. And she would look out, she'd get madder than heck out and chase them around with a broom. Yeah, you know, like back talking, but they're just playing with her, you know, having a good time. They weren't intentionally trying to back talk her, but she was a very serious woman, you know. She don't take no. There was no funning for her, you know, around. What she said, she meant. You better do it. They knew they could outrun her now, so they were okay. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Chief Yellowhorse won. He returned back to Arizona and bought the Miller Trading Post in Lupton. Of course, named it Chief Yellowhorse Trading Post, and then Frank returned and started becoming part of the trading post. The top pictures of the cave where Chief Yellowhorse has his trading post, and on the other end where Frank has his trading post. Of course, Dave was out there working with the children. Donkey Dynamite.
I met a lot of tourists on that donkey. It was really neat because I'd never been to any big city or anything, so yeah, I was kind of curious about them as they were me.
Right.
You know, so every morning I have to feed the buffaloes. We had 5 buffaloes, and right along here, right along here was a fence that came out this way. And I would put every morning I put a big old leaf of hay, about this much hay, in the corner there. So the biggest buffalo, we call them Yanni. Yanni just means buffalo in Navajo, but we call them Yanni, you know. And because people always ask, "What's your buffalo name?" Yanni. we didn't have names for our buffalo. It was buffalo, you know. But anyway, I'd put some leaf hay, you know, some hay right out there, and Yanni, being the biggest bull, he'd go over there and he would eat there. You know, I would get these kids, they would start surrounding me and say, you know, a 25-cent ride, and you know, nobody, you know, they're kind of quiet. Nobody, it's hard to break the ice. So I'd tell them, I said, hey, the first one who wants to ride goes for free. I'd get, well, I'll go. So I'd get them on that donkey and I'd get around that corner. Right when I would turn the corner, that fence, they would be probably 3 foot from a live big buffalo. And that, you know, when they'd see that, they, you know, you could see their reaction, because I always was watching for the reaction. You know, they would just go, "What the heck is that?" So I'd explain to them, you know, and that kind of broke the ice between me and that person. So we'd be talking the rest of the way, all the way around, and we had animals back there. Gosh, sheep. We had one sheep. They were gonna kill it because his front legs got injured real bad. I said, I'll keep him and feed him, and care for him, you know. So I had him in a pen, you know. So you know, he needed attention, so I took care of him. But them tourist kids always liked him, you know, that billy goat. But anyway, take him around. We'd get back around, and I said, "What?" He said, "Man, that's really neat." I said, "Well, whatever you do, don't tell anybody what you seen over here, you know, when we get back." He goes, "Okay." So he gets off the donkey, and he'll tell us, "Man, that was neat. God, you guys got to go on there." Boy, I just started to ching, 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 ching. That's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, so that's how usually how I started my morning. I try to figure out a way to get them on my donkey. Even if the first one was free, I didn't mind. You know, get them on there, and and I would learn about them. You know, that way and they're curious about me as well. You know, and that's how I learned, you know, where they come from, and you know, these places you read about in the book, Chicago and Illinois and all that stuff, you know, so you get to read about that. One year I had 16 Shetland ponies at a time, and the donkey's name was Dynamite, but I had one brown and white, or black and white Shetland, and his name was Dynamite as well. And that was my show-off horse, because he was very sensitive on the rump. we didn't have saddles back then. That was my uncle's saddle on that. It's the only way you'd get a city slicker on there, you know? So you move backwards a little bit, scoot backwards on this little Shetland pony, pretty good sized Shetland, paint, little black and white paint. And you scoot back a little bit and he would just start bucking crazy. Pull forward and stop. So I had like an off and on button. So when tourist kids would come over, you know, I'd ride out there in front and just show off, you know? It was just fun, you know? One kid wanted to ride. He said, "Can I ride with you?" I said, "Yeah." So I come around and load him up on a boulder, you know, by the shop. He didn't know Dynamite was this way. They were visiting, so my cousins and I brought him out and said, "Hey, Dave, take him for a ride." I said, "Yeah, we will." You know, so I got him all prepared and got him up to the rock, you know, and he jumps on. When he jumped on, the old Dynamite came alive. This kid's old. All of a sudden, they're squeezing like crazy. And here, bucking, and here we go off. Somehow I ended up on the bottom, and he landed on top of me. And I had just bought a brand new straw hat, as a matter of fact. We landed on it. It tore it up pretty good. You know, so that was the kind of little mischief we got in over there on the reservation when I was a kid. Not too much.
You grew up kind of quick. At age 15, he got into the jewelry making business. Father Frank taught him how to create the jewelry working with silver, gold, semi-precious stones. And Dave took the influences from the Navajo and the Zuni Indians, which were all in the same area, and came up with his own style. The Santa Fe Old Town Market is where he went, and he just started building more and more people into the jewelry business. So he kind of launched them into it full time. Here's some of his earlier pieces.
The bubble style here kind of looks modern. These the bubble, what I call a bubble ring and bubble bracelet. These ones I designed in 75, 76 time frame, 75, and actually for the Indian jewelry business, it was very kind of modern for that time period. So it was a little bit before my time on this, on that style. But a couple of years went by, it started growing on people. I call it contemporary channel inlay back then. Indian Arts and Crafts was really going very strong about that time frame. You know, most now will stay by traditional styles, meaning it was stone, with silver and stone, partial stones, and leaf work going around them. That was a traditional Navajo style. My dad had a lot of Zuni jewelry that was inlaid that was in the store. And it always fascinated me, this inlay. It was just so intricate. You know, I said, I want to try some inlay. That's why it fascinated me that much that I started channel inlay work and stuff like that. One of my mentors that I fashioned my work behind and got me interested, his name was Charles Laloma. He's gone now, but he was also in that time frame very contemporary artist, way before his time. His name was Charles Laloma. He was a Hopi. Yeah.
And the belt buckle's a little later. After he got into the knife business. It just filled the spot real good, balanced out the picture for you guys. 112 was one of his working partners in his jewelry business. And also a competitive tool that he used with the guys in the shop. And as we stated yesterday, by good luck, handle broke off. He had some stones left over from jewelry he was working on, and repaired his handle. And that humble beginning kind of blossom into, you know, hundreds of thousands of Yellowhorse knives that we all love and appreciate.
Bill Grant?
You could actually see some of the contemporary, this is 78 time frame. That was my first knife I did was in 1978.
Still got it?
No, that one, I don't know whatever happened to it, but it, I only did one side at first, and I showed it to my jewelry customers at a small route that I went every Friday. Leave Phoenix, it would go all the way up to Payson, Flagstaff, come back down to Sedona, and I hit Scottsdale, and that was my route. I had 5 good customers, and they liked it. I showed them my knife. I said, "What do you think of it?" "Yeah, that's nice." Turn it over and go, "Oh, what are you gonna do the other side?" "Oh, one of these days." When I get around to it. So I bought 5 knives off the get-go from it was a L&L. It was called L&L Smith Hardware Store in Phoenix, and I bought 5 knives from them. I inlaid them on my next route. On the next Friday, I showed each of my customers. They each bought one, and they called me back on Monday, and I talked to the ones that didn't call back, called them, and they said, "It's gone. Bring some more when you come back up." So they sold them that weekend. I delivered them Friday. They each sold one on that weekend. So they had real good luck with it, and encouraged me to do some more for them.
Just shows the inlay he just used the scraps, the smaller pieces. Even though it was leftover, stones from his jewelry business, it's still
It's
put
ironwood,
together.
ironwood also, and brass strips.
Another one that just came in the shop that he repaired back from the '78 era also.
And you see it don't cross real good right there. I'm not quite sure. Could have been Monday. I was noticing that when it came in. I was like, wow. I'm like, well, why did I do that?
Just a little.
The backside was pretty close.
A little further along, he's starting to develop his style, using bigger pieces of stones, but also putting a sun face on the bolster. In his earlier knives, you kind of bounce back and forth between, the front side and the back side as we look at a knife today. And a few knives further down, he decided that the buck name was going to be the front side. And that's where he taken, be the presentation side. Didn't quite make it here. This is just before it. This is one of his fancy lacies. It was an upgraded knife that he did that came with a handmade leather sheath also. And you bring it into the engraving shop and have his name put on the blade. This is a fancy lacy from a little further down. It's here where he has the front side of the knife established. He also has the sun faces on there. It's a similar stonework, but it is an upgrade over what he was doing on the other knives. He did about 60 of these total. His most popular knife, the horse.
Two ding mini. Let's do about 6,000 of those things. Yeah. That's between sharper image and buck knives. Yeah. I got pretty close. I don't remember the exact figure, but it was a lot over the years, a number of years.
Second knife he did for buck was the buffalo. And the third one, coyote. We got to go back a few years. In 1983, he started doing a standardized design, the lacy. That was one of the first knives he did for sharper image. follow his history through buck, it doesn't start until 87, but in reality, it starts at 78. You go through at 83, he standardizes his patterns. He was also producing before he, hooked up with buck. And that kind of drove me crazy for a couple of years until I got enough information to realize what was going on.
Yeah.
American Flag was one of his longest running limited editions. There was 2,500 in it. In the earlier knives, you could see they were stamped on the bolster with his hand stamp. The later knives had the mirror polish blade. I think they all have the mirror polish blade.
Yeah.
But it was signed on the blade. Of course, California was another one. And the Confederate state knives. White Eagle. And this is the same design that I worked with Dave to take and get it reintroduced up, get him introduced back to the buck knives and start working on the buck knives again. I couldn't find that knife anywhere, so I had him, come up with with the nickel bolsters. I also had the Brave that was in brass and the Eagle was in silver, so it gave it a good contrast. That was a great looking design. This one he hated to do and loved to do.
Yeah. Those stars were made out of opal. It's small pieces. And grind one and put a jet on it. Grind a jet. Grind an opal. Grind a jet. Just keep going around in a circle like that. It was, each little star was took a long time just to do a star that way.
For 162, 164 pieces per side.
Yeah.
Didn't happen overnight. It was one of the earlier club knives that he did for us, running together. That was one of the first knives that was actually signed by him and Brian. Club did good to be able to take and get something, commemorate both of them, signed by both of them. Chief was the first chip one to come out with. Rising Wisdom is another one. Of course, the Code Talkers, Iwo Jima knife. This stone format here is what came out, which was sold as an individual knife only. And then there was a gun and knife set with a Colt 45 and had a little different stone format than that. This is the better looking stone format, but in my opinion. Another club knife did, Wild Horse. Cut ear set, to honor his great-great-grandfather. Of course, he was a silversmith. Big part of the Navajo culture is to be able to do ceremonies, and the ceremonies revolve around drums. Last week they had a powwow here at the fairgrounds, and it was just inspiring. So here 4 was on the rug weaver. That's a big part of the Navajo culture is the rugs. They was telling you about how they put 100 foot out in the morning. And being able to find water was a key feature of life. And his cut here was able to go out and find water. And smart enough, if you were digging in the wrong spot, he'd stop. You don't go to China to take and find dirt. And even though he wasn't known as a medicine man, he was looked on by the community for all he did for them. And he also represented them, so took a little bit of artistic liberty to do the medicine man. That was the last knife in the series to honor him. A few other knives he did the 532. This is one of the Swabies. Got a mule deer on the backside. The regular inlay. I believe he did that for the cutlery shops. Monument Valley. Not quite sure who he did that for.
was a buck.
There weren't too many of them. It was later done on 110 for Costco in the Damascus set. Here he actually has a couple of materials. He has the mother of pearl moon around the wolf or coyote. Really an upgrade on just a regular inlay. The stallion, the logo. Flying turkey. Joe has one out in the archives out there, museum. 110 Buffalo, Monument Valley, he also had one of those out there. This is a charging elephant, which I think is a little different than the one he has out there. And this is one of the custom knives he did, honoring the railroad. There's a train on one side. That's all I had on that one. The other side, he had a different design. Union logo. This is the first eagle feather he came out with. He's done with the Damascus blade. You see a kind of progression of how he improved as he went along. He enhanced the design on the middle one, and then on the top one went full bore and did the silver inlay also, or nickel silver
A
inlay.
lot of little pieces.
Yeah.
And collaborations with Michael Prater. He worked on one side. Michael did the other. And his association with Buck and how he started out, from the donkey rides, jewelry, silversmithing, and ways to repair his knife. 1978, getting into the knife business. And the Lacey, like I say, the standardized design came out in '83, and he didn't make the Buck catalog until '87. If you get into the history, you'll see some differences between, depending on who we got the knives from, whether it was from Buck or Sharper Image. Different issue days. Into the top left are the sheaths that came with the fancy laces that he also did up. Did up turquoise jewelry, tie tacks, key rings, Yebiche. That jewelry is just flat out gorgeous. All different sizes and shapes. Had earrings, ring, necklace, and pendant.
That knife there on the bottom there. Do you have that one, Chief?
Yeah.
I remember making that one. That's a real early model. Probably 80 or 79, somewhere around there. Maybe 70, 78 maybe. One of my first ones.
I got in the rut and thinking that Dave only worked on 112 and found out that it did more than that. You can see on this knife he did very creative. Wasn't the pieces were all shaped different sizes. There's a nice little wave pattern to it, and also instead of having square straight across, it kind of bellies in the center of the knife. Uses jewelry stamp on the bottom to take and sign off on the knife. What makes a Buck Yellowhorse knife special? As Navajo family skills are passed on generation to generation. Exceptionally talented and gifted fourth-generation Native American silversmith. His ability to create unique crafted Navajo-themed works of art has brought him recognition in both the jewelry and collectible knife industries. Dave creates a theme for each design, making each knife special, and they are all one of a kind with their own character. Dave visualizes each knife, bringing to life with shapes, lines, colors, and tones that work together. He unites the design with the natural materials to create a unique combination of color and texture. Handle designs are channel inlaid with turquoise, silver, brass, nickel, copper, jasper, coral, spiny oyster, black jet, opal, mother of pearl, lapis, and ironwood, as well as the hand-engraved bolsters. Dave's inspiration is drawn from his heritage and his surroundings, and he translates his vision into each of his knife designs. There is a part of him in each knife. Buck Knives also has a family tradition. Buck Knives started as a young Kansas blacksmith apprentice looking for a better way to temper steel so it would hold an edge longer. White Buck experimented with several techniques and produced his first buck knife in 1902. This is where they kind of parallel what they did, and, what they have in their knives. Used the buck knife as a tool of his trade, but after the handle accidentally broke, used his jewelry skills to repair the knife. And the knife handle drew the attention of customers, and soon led him to create his artistry on buck knives. The families working together, showcasing their talents for users as well as collectors.
Yeah, that's pretty good, huh?
Want to introduce your family?
Yeah, Shush Yellowhorse, my uncle, Frank, my dad, Maggie May, the horse, John, my uncle. As my dad and I was probably 18 there, presenting me with an old 9mm of his. My Aunt Gloria and Aunt Artie, they're both silversmiths, very lovely ladies, by the way. My uncle Juan, there, yeah.
And it branches out, it's not just,
Yeah, it gets bigger and bigger as it goes on.
they're all talented, and they all share and work together. One can help out the other, they do.
Yeah.
And a collaboration, our commercial endorsement, just to
Yeah.
show you what Dave and Wild Bill working together came up with, as well as with our track knives that we have for this year. And that's a guy that's happy at what he does.
Yeah.
Inside of his shop.
Yeah.
New
You'll
shop.
if you notice, look in this poster right there. It says white man's moccasins. This guy, this hello guy, was wearing some Commerce tennis shoes. He's sitting there, you can't see him, but he's sitting there just about as convenient. He has a cigar in his hand. This guy, Lee Mormon, he wanted to take, he's a photographer. He wanted to take this guy's picture. It's Navajo. And he said, I want to take your picture. You seen him, it was just photogenic looking. He said, no picture. He goes, I'll pay you $5 for a picture. He goes, oh, no picture. $10. He goes, no picture. I said, what can I do to get your picture? He looked down and he said, that cigar. So he took the cigar out of his pocket and gave it to him and got his picture. True story.
Is the trading post still there?
Yes, yeah.
And is
Yeah,
your
the-
family still?
Yeah,
own it?
oh, yeah. The first one, the freeway went through it. And when I-40 went through it, the westbound lane plowed it down. You see, it came from the east and the west, so our area was the last to get I-40. Probably from, Winslow to probably just past Gallup, New Mexico was the last portion to get built. And of course, the last two cities, they had Winslow and Holbrook to go through to bypass. But the Navajo reservation's kind of unique. You just can't say, we're taking your land, we're gonna, they had to be a little more cautious about it, because, just the way it was, they figured, wow, how are we gonna take these people's land again? Yeah, how are we gonna, this, so they had to be real careful how they did it. They could have just did it and not cared, but they really thought about it. So they actually paid us to move up the road. They helped us relocate with monies to up the road where the freeway was coming through.
And
So,
you're close enough to an exit that you get?
Oh.
Yeah, because we had a Navajo, what we had there was a lease. We had a Navajo business site lease. Being Navajo, you can lease, none of us own the reservation individually. the whole reservation, the whole Navajo land is owned, they say it's, a lot of people think it's in trust with that the United States government owns it, but the Navajo people own it. But we own it undividedly. We own it as a tribe, as a whole. So in order for us to live somewhere, we get what we call a home site lease. We go to our local chapter house. We have 110 chapters on our reservation. We go to them and say, our local chapter, and say, we want to live over here. So if everybody's agreement, they say, yeah, they sign off, you get a 1 acre home site lease there. And then you live there for the rest of your life. It's a 99-year lease. It's renewable if you live past that. So, but it's probatable as well. Your family can take and claim that as probated, when you go.
That's in your family.
Yeah.
Passed on.
Yeah. So it's our land, but it's in trust, what they call in trust with the United States government. They basically hold it for us to make sure. I think they were afraid we were going to sell it, or do something, So they just said, hey, we'll help you manage it and all that, So, but we're actually a sovereign nation where we're at. When I built my house, nobody came out. Nobody said, hey, do it this way, do it that way, or anything. We don't have nothing like that. No codes or anything. I have a modern home they built, but it's, that's just the way it is over there. When I file my taxes, sometime my federal taxes, the state will see it and go, hey, they'll write to me and say, how come we receive a state tax? State return from you. We see a federal, but no state. And it has a little caption you have to file, certain statutes if you live in Arizona. I just write them back and say, well, I don't pertain to your statute. I don't live in Arizona. I live on the old reservation. And they say, I don't know. They never respond. They just throw me under the carpet.
Too much work.
Too much information for them to figure out. Yeah.
I-40 is better for your business than old 66.
It has been. Yeah. It has its off. It's our items have come down a lot. We used to have all Native American made stuff there all the time. Our jewelry, everything, and but the people that really buy our artwork, you see them going this way, and the people with families on a budget, they're traveling through the Grand Canyon, whatever. So they don't have a lot to spend. So we have a lot of, our merchandise has changed a lot. We have China stuff, we have Japanese stuff, just crazy stuff. We make our own wares, and we take them to other places. We'll take them to Grand Canyon, we'll take them to Sedona, and we sell our handmade wares there, and that's where those folks buy them. They'll fly into Phoenix, rent a car, they have their family with them. It's a 3-day, 4-day, quick getaway. They take their family everywhere, they come back, they buy a few things, and they're back home the next, by Monday or Tuesday.
Different markets.
Yeah, it's changed, yeah. The people that come through our reservation now, in the summertime, they want to take the doggy set or something. They don't want to spend $200-300 or $1,000 to do that, so you're looking for something, inexpensive gift to take back home. A lot of them come through and say, wow, well, we're going to probably do some shopping in Grand Canyon and look around there. On our way back, we might stop by. And I said, okay, well, you will. When you see the prices over there. And they do. They always stop by back, And my dad, Frank, he loves talking to people, tourists and stuff. So, he does really well there.
You yourself, do you still do jewelry, or do you spend all your time?
I do a little jewelry, but it's been tough. My desk is there at all times. I love jewelry work. You know, I wish I'd do it more often, but knives, yeah, take up all my time and effort, so, yeah. I always get in trouble because I promise people to make them some, and sometimes I can't always follow through, you know, but just for the busyness of it, you know. I'm a guy that, I never say no when I should. You know, it's just the way I am, you know. Yeah, I always try anyway.
Do you have anybody besides your son helping make knives?
Oh, do I have help?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have, there's 5 of us in my shop. Saul Damien, he's a Navajo. He's been working with me for quite a while. He's an inlayer. Another guy, his name's Herbert Lee. He lives a couple canyons away from me. He don't say nothing when he comes in. I always say, "Hey, how's it going, Herbert?" Right. That's it. That's all you get out of him, you know. Yeah. But you know, I have to really push him to talk. He does most of my cutting. You know, he sits there and he cuts all day long. He doesn't skip a beat. I taught him. I taught him about 6 years ago how to cut. The designs in the center of my knives, and he is fabulous at it. A lot of times at Christmas time at our Christmas party, we'll have a cut-off. I'll make these big old cut-out pieces, you know, and we all sit there and we cut these things out as fast as we can and see who wins. Not only time, but they're judged. They got to be perfect. You know, he always wins. he's just perfect at it. You know, he's very talented with with his eyes and his eye-hand coordination. The thing he holds his saw like this, and he's holding it like this. When he's cutting, his fingers always going like this. I don't know how he does it, but it's just moving 100 miles an hour when he's cutting. But he's very precise. Yeah.
Now, the saw, it's like a jeweler saw.
Yeah, it is a jeweler saw.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know, that's kind of the trademark of my work is getting those pieces in to fit real nice. And it took me probably a year and a half to figure it, to just playing around with it until I figured it out. Back when I first started, my inlays were just inlays. And that was it. No cutouts yet. Yeah, I was doing an Arabian horse show in Scottsdale, Arizona, and the gentleman always invite us over there to set up our jewelry, and this is about 78, 79, maybe 80 time frame. And his name was Lou, and he came over and he greeted us, and was so glad you guys showed up, because he had a lot of friends. And they would buy from us. He loved Navajo people and their jewelry making, so we'd show up there with our wares. And so I was anxious to show him my new knife inlays, and I showed him. He goes, "Wow, I like that." And he threw his business card on the table and says, "Can you put a horse on there?" Well, I don't know. I'll try. And that's what got me trying to figure out how to put an animal in there, So it's kind of the same thing that Buck did, is they're always, you always listen to your customer try to figure it out. You're not always successful, or it takes quite a while to do that. But that's how that's how the emblems became started. And it didn't look too pretty at first, because I'd cut the emblem out, set it on top, and then cut around it. So it's kind of sloppy looking. It gaps, and you maybe cut too close, cut some of the mane off, the detail off of your emblem. So eventually I figured out, after a year and a half of messing with it and experimenting, I learned to stack two materials together, come out at the same time, and that still wasn't fitting tight. So I ended up starting to angle my saw about 15 degrees, or I angled too much and it wouldn't fit, so I'd bring it down. Pretty soon I found out about 15 degrees, cut around it. Now 15 degrees would take the saw blade out because you fit it back in, it would fit back in real tight and take the blade size out, which is about 10 thousandths. And then you had like a perfect fit, you know, so it was like looking really good. You look at it and go, wow, how did I do that? How did I get in there? So I liked that. You know, that was what I was after. You know, perfection. I was after, wasn't happy with it. I mean, they were happy with it, but I wasn't. I was trying to figure out how can I get it in there tighter and tighter and tighter, you know. So back then we didn't have what they had, lasers and all the happy horse stuff that we have today, modern stuff, you know. So that's what I did on that. That's
What year did you first show up in Sharp Ribbon's catalog?
that'd probably be about 1985. Yeah, I'm thinking about 80. Well, yeah, probably 85. 1984. I was buying some Gutman knives out of New York. They handled a Japanese knife. It was called Explorer, and also Pumas. But I didn't buy much Pumas. I bought the Explorers. My customers kept saying, I love the buck knives. Can you make me a pocket knife that look exactly like the buck knife? I go, well, I don't know. So I'm looking through the buck catalog. They had pocket knives, but they didn't have like a miniature 112 or 110 with brass bolsters. They were all nickel or, you know, nickel bolsters, pocket knives. So I was looking all over the place to find a buck knife, only a 3-inch small one. I couldn't find it. And so one guy told me there's one called Ballard. So I looked at it and it's kind of sloppy. It was made in Japan. And I was like, Japan? You know, I was like, yes. I didn't like it. I kept looking. Finally I come across this Explorer. It was fairly decent, but turned it around, still said made in Japan. I'm going, yeah, kept looking. Went back to the Explorer and started doing some of those. Because I couldn't find like a miniature. They liked that shape. I liked that shape, 112, 110. And it was exactly that shape, only 3 inches locked back, a little 3-inch lock back. Pretty cool. Brass bolsters. And I sold those for quite a while. Yeah, I did really well with them. But anyway, they liked what I did, so they sent a writer out, and Gutman said, "Well, why don't you put you in our knife journal?" So okay, so they sent a writer out. In 1984, they put a nice little article in there, 2 or 3 pages long, you know, with a Puma knife or something I did for the occasion. And it was good. But one person who collected knives, his name is Richard Thalheimer out of San Francisco, and he had a company called the Sharper Image. It was just a catalog company at the time. It had no stores or anything. It was one catalog company of kind of unique, kind of Richie looking things in there, just off the wall stuff. And he's seen that in the knife journal and goes, gosh. He gave it to one of his buyers. It was a lady buyer. Says, find this guy. Or gave it to it was like a supervisor, and he gave the assignment to a lady, is what she told me. And so she found me. She researched and found me in Phoenix at the time. And she said, Mr. Thalheimer wants you in one of his catalogs, you know, Sharper Image. I go, wow. I never heard of it. You know, she said, yeah, you heard of Sharper Image? No. She goes, well, I'll send you a copy, you know, and you look at it and stuff. And she says, how much are these things? I told her, you know, and she goes, wow, so that's good. She goes, I talked to Richard, and we want you in for one season, like our Christmas catalog, and we want 700 units. She called them units. Yeah, wasn't used to that, you know. Yeah, 700 units. I go, 700. I said, boy, these take a while. And I said, well, she goes, well, you know, I'll send you a packet out, and you think about it, see what you can do for us. And so I So she sent a packet out, vendor packet she called. I got all that in, looked to her cal, that's cool, and ripped her vendor packet open. It was about that thick. And I go, wow. I'm reading through there, product liability and shit. What the heck? Like, it was giving me a headache. I was like, holy cow. So I called her up and I said, ma'am, I said, I got a problem. She goes, what's that, Mr. Yellowhorse? I said, I have a problem with your vendor pack. She goes, oh, what paragraph? The whole thing. It's giving me a headache. I told her, she goes, the whole thing? I go, yeah, God, man, I don't even know how to interpret all this mess. I said, I can't do this. I said, I can't give you 20 days and share $1,500 to help put my article in your catalog or whatever. I have no idea how to do all this stuff, you know? She goes, man, Mr. Yellowhorse, do you realize how much money? We're talking a lot of money here. I said, ma'am, I said, listen, it doesn't matter how much money it is. I'm going to disappoint you. The last thing I want to do is disappoint you. You know, there's no money in the world. You know, there's not enough money in this world to disappoint you. And she goes, wow, Mr. Yellowhorse, I don't know what to say. I have to talk to my supervisor about this. I said, well, talk to whoever you got to. I'm just telling you how it is, you know. So she called me back a couple of days. She said, Mr. Yellowhorse, she said, I talked to a supervisor and he said that wasn't his deal. She said, you better go talk to the president, Richard Thalheimer. He's the one who ordered this. So she said, I did. And she told him what I told him. And he said, well, you tell Mr. Yellowhorse whatever he wants, give it to him. I want his product in my catalog. Yeah. So that's how I got in. I sent him 100 knives at the beginning, you know, and continued, sent him 100 after that. But it was really tough because I'd made boxes for these as well, you know, so I was like, you know, what the heck, you know, even doing this is going to be very difficult, you know, feet. You know, I was getting a little bit skittish. I was like, God, I hope I don't disappoint these people. I gotta really buckle down here and figure out what I'm gonna do, you know. So I figured everything out on paper, and I was still about $10,000 short, because by the time they get their product, I get a check maybe in 20 days. Yeah, I'm gonna be stumped. How am I gonna get the next project going? You know, I already spent all my money, you know. So I went to, my banker used to come to my shop, bring all his big buddies over there. So it was like a nice little shop, coffee pot on the stove with burner there, you know. So he would bring them for their lunch. After lunch, he'd bring them over to my shop, you know, and introduce me, and they just liked it, you know. So he always brought them over. So I put all my figures together, and I went to see him. I said, Bill, I said, can I see you? He goes, yeah, come on in. Hey, big old office, you know, and it's called Thunderbird Bank, yeah, in Glendale, Arizona. What can I do for you? And I showed him everything, you know, and sharper image. Wow, that's good. He's looking at all my numbers. I said, I've got about $10,000 short. He goes, well, Dave, he said, we might be able to help you. And I said, well, Bill, I said, I don't have no collateral. He goes, well, he said, I think we can still help you. He said, come in and see me tomorrow. And in the morning, I went to see him. He said, I looked at all your figures. They all look good. He said, I got your check right there. I said, well, wait a minute. No collateral, no. He goes, put your signature on that check. That's good enough for me, he said. That's what he said. He gave me a $10,000 check, put it in my account. And he said, I got another thing for you, Dave. He said, I think you're going to do real good with these people. He said, I'm giving you a $75,000 credit line. Anytime you need money, you have to come see me. Just write a check. I go, really? He goes, yeah, really. Wow. Yeah, so he went over and beyond, you know, that. Yeah. So I still have a dilemma where I'm gonna make the boxes. My brother, I have a brother-in-law and an uncle. There's 4 of us. We're gonna work night and day to make these knives, but we make our boxes too. I'm not gonna find time. So what I did is I fixed up my back porch, screened it in, put some, add some more toys out back, and I got some neighbor ladies, they're housewives, they're just home with the kids. I hire them, come in, teach them how to make wood boxes and put the interiors in them and stuff. Their kids are all playing out in the backyard there on slides and swings and junk, you know. So, yeah, they made a little extra money. Yeah, they were real happy. So I was real happy too, because man, I got my box dilemma solved, and we're on our way. And that's how the Sharper Image, it was really my first big account that just took off. Whatever I needed just fell in place, and people believed in me and that I could get her done. So I was a workaholic back then. I worked till 2 in the morning and get up at 5, do it again. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
Did it pay off?
Yeah, it was fun. Well, when you're young, you can do that. Yeah, I don't want to crawl in bed about 9:30 anymore. Yeah, when you get older, yes, yeah. Yeah.
You know, about 5 years ago, I brought in a knife that, and showed it to you, and you said it was one that your uncle had made.
Yeah.
You said at that time he was kind of in bad health. Did he make very many knives?
Not too many, no, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I got one.
Yeah. It was not too long after that. I was doing well. I did a 4-page brochure of our knives, and I was going to send them out. I needed addresses, so I called Buck up. This is probably 85, 86 time frame, and I was looking for a bunch of addresses. I figured, what's the best place to get them? A knife place, the Buck knife place. So I called them up and said, I'm looking for somebody who can help me with like a mailing list. I said, well, you need to talk to marketing. So they transferred me to marketing. I run into a guy, the secretary said, Jim Bloom is who you need to talk to. He's president of marketing, but he's out of town. He said, but his assistant is here. His name is Charlie Gregory. So let me talk to him. I told Charlie Gregory, I said, Charlie, David Yellowhorse. He goes, I've heard of some of your knives. I said, well, what can I do for you? I said, I'm looking for a mailing list, to mail out some brochures I just finished. And I want to try to get more customers for my business. He goes, okay, so what zip code are you looking for? And I go, zip code? Well, yeah, you don't want our whole list, do you? I mean, you can't sell everybody, can you? Can you? And I go, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm stumped here. I said, I don't know. He goes, well, I said, well, think about it, and I'll check with everybody here, see if I can even get you one. So okay. So he called me the next day, and I said, Dave, he said, we can't. It's against our policy to give any mailing lists out. They said, I'll tell you what, why don't you send me one of your knives over, and maybe we can do something with it. I said, okay. So they sent him a knife. And he called me, as soon as he got it, he called me up and said, Dave, he said, man, how much are these things? I told him, he goes, man, he said, I could sell these. Really? He goes, yeah. He said, I want you to make me some. I go, okay. How many you want? He goes, 500. 500? Yeah. I said, 500? He goes, yeah, 500. When can you deliver them? And Charlie Gregory, if anybody knows, does anybody know Charlie Gregory in here? Yeah, just one or two guys. Yeah, he's right to the point. He's very sharp. Very, he's just right there. There's nothing in between. So he said, yeah, when can you send them? I go, well, man, it's going to take me a while to make these things up, I said, they're handmade, So I'll work on 100 of them right away and send them to you. I don't know when I'll get them done, maybe 2 months, maybe 3. He goes, okay, well, get them to me as soon as you can. So we worked real hard, and we get them 100, in about a month and a half's time. Get them 100. I give him about a week and a half, you know, for it to kind of whatever he's going to do with them, you know. I call him and I did the same thing. I'm starting on the next 100, Charlie. I said, how are the other ones doing? He goes, they're gone. I go, gone? He goes, didn't you hear me? Gone. when can I expect the other 100? So that was how Charlie was, you know. So, but I had to be kind of reassured because I didn't, you know, it was too fast for me. You know, I thought this guy's going to have a bunch of these things laying around. I don't want that. I want him to sell them. I didn't know he sold them fast as he got them in. You know, so that's what started the relationship with the buck Yellowhorse thing, and it was really good after that. I got knives before that. I got knives when I was doing Sharper Image. I got knives from Buck, probably '83 with no handles on them. As I called Al Buck at the time as president of Buck Knives, I got a hold of him and I said, Al, I said, I wonder if I could get some of these knives from you folks, you know, wholesale. You know, I'm buying them. The whole town's out of Buck knives. You know, I had three. By then, I had, I think, about two sporting goods stores and a hardware store, and they're having a hard time keeping up with me, because they were wondering about me too, probably, just like I was wondering about everybody else. You know, they didn't want them piling up on, order a bunch of them. So he said, well, I don't know. He says, I said, what do they look like? And I said, well, I'll send you one. So the next day, Aaron went out to him, and he called me as soon as he got in. He said, Dave, man, I like this. This is nice. He says, got a problem. I go, what's that? And he goes, well, he said, I have bylaws. I go, bylaws? He goes, yeah, laws I made. He said, you don't have a retail store. We don't sell unless you have a retail store. I said, not even I could really break my own rules. They said, I've been thinking about your dilemma and my own rules. And he said, I found a loophole. I said, you did? I went from low to high, you know. I go, you did? He goes, yeah. He said, you take those handles off, don't you? And I go, yeah. He goes, I can send these to you with no handles? You'd be okay? And I go, well, yeah. He goes, well, I could save you another $1.80 a piece on these things with no handles even. I go, well, yeah. He goes, well, that way it's an unfinished knife, and I can get around my bylaw through a loophole. I can sell these to you. And I told him, well, I appreciate that. And I said, I'll always protect your interests about this. And that's when I started getting knives from Buck directly, with no handles on them. Yeah, that's how they sent them. But John Renzi, he remembers, billing those out or making up the billing for them, to send them. I asked John today, this morning about that, and he said it seemed like you were doing maybe about 20 to 30 at a time for a while, and then it'd spike up and go down. And he said, yeah. He don't have any statistics about it, but that's kind of vaguely his memory of it anyway. Yeah, it was pretty kind of neat, yeah. Then when the Sharper Image one came in, of course, we started doing knives, a lot more knives then. And they asked if, I said, can you guys put polish on these blades? They go, yeah. So they started polishing the blades and then started stamping on them Buck Custom, instead of a model number. And they're starting to really look good. They just come in with no handles on them, blank, But it was a good association that way. Yeah. So I sent Al a few knives for a few Christmases after that as a token of my appreciation. Yeah. I don't know whatever he did with them, but he had at least 3 of them that I sent to him. Yeah. That's how I know Al. I was invited. There was a knife. It was really an odd thing that happened to me. I was an iKnife show or something on the web, and Jan or somebody, they wanted me to participate because it had something to do with Buck knives, buck knives are talking about on a topic. It was a chat room type thing, a bunch of knife guys like me. And they invited me to do this chat with them. I go, okay, I never did that. I had problems with my computer, so that night I said, that darn computer is trash. So I get my little tablet, which I don't use too often, put it up, propped it up there on my counter, watching Speed Channel, and it starts about 8 o'clock their time, so it's 10 o'clock my time. You know, I'm already way past my bedtime. But anyway, I'm not a real good typer with this thing. I have one finger. And these chat guys, they're pretty fast. They're asking questions left and right, you know, and they're just going 100 miles an hour. And then one of them said, who was your first contact over there? I told him, oh, Al Buck was, you know, and I talked to him and got my knives and, you know, and not all of it was coming out very good because this thing has a spell checker and is correcting me and everything. And, you know, so they're like, well, what he's been drinking. You know? But anyway, I'm trying to keep up anyway. And I said, yeah, Al Buck is, what a businessman. You know, I put that and hit enter and waiting. And then it's silent for a while. And I'm going, what the heck? I looked up my last entry. It said, Al Buck had some good grass. Oh my God! Oh, I feel, oh man, I got so red. And nobody was there. Nobody was there. The whole thing, I go, oh my God. Oh, the spell checker, oh, I go, I'm sorry. That thing just totally took everything. Spell checker, I'm sorry, guys. And everybody come back and go, we understand. We have the same problem, but that was funny. I met, he is a good businessman. Good at business, that's what I said. And because I missed a few letters, it tried to spell it out for me. And I already hit enter before I looked at it. I'm going, you know, I'd been waiting for chats to come up, and it just quiet. I'm going, well, everybody go to sleep. And I look at my last entry, I go, oh my God! Those are the kind of things that you do, the experiences that you have. But you know, none of this would even take place if it wasn't for you folks who buy my artwork. And it's you that I owe everything that I did up to who I am today. I owe everybody that's influenced me in my life, and it's you folks that push me by saying, "Can you do that? Can you do this?" You know, and buying my stuff as I go along. You have put me through school to learn my own. What I had a passion for, and you kept me there and fed me while I could do all these things, and that can never be replaced. I always remember that, and I totally appreciate everybody that I hear and everybody I've known in the past that's always pushed me and shoved me and you know, all those things, and that's I have just a really good feeling of that by itself, because I couldn't have stayed in school without eating, you know, because it was, you know, I went to it's been a lifelong schooling for me of learning something that I loved. I don't know why, but it just happened that I loved what I did. So it's thanks to folks like you that it's always bought along the way, and that's a result of what I do today is from you guys. You know, it didn't happen by itself. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. Yeah.